with a mansion and a fleet of luxury cars, including a 2019 Lamborghini Urus, a 2022 Tesla Model X, and a 2018 Porsche Panamera. Karika was living the life. For her, the American dream was coming true, or so it seemed. However, beyond the shiny luster and posh interior of a mansion and flashy cars, a closer look at the source of her wealth reveals a dark underbelly of fraud, greed, convenience, lies, and deceit. This is the story of Caretha Wortham, a 31-year-old former Amazon operations manager who built a life of luxury on the heels of fraud and lost everything in the blink of an eye. And it all started on the 5th of June. A Georgia court sentenced the ex-Amazon operations manager to 16 years in federal prison. What was her offense, and what could have warranted such an extended stay in federal prison? Well, it turns out that in less than 2 years as an operations manager, Karika and a gang of 7 others built a fraud scheme that feasts Amazon of $10 million. In the words of Stephen Beazle of the U.S. Secret Service, this individual stole millions from a business that employed her, exploiting not only their trust, but our nation's financial system. And to Stephen, I say, shut the fuck up. Amazon treats their employees like shit, so I'm not tripping. Karika broke the #1 rule in life. She got caught. But how could such a big corporation like Amazon be blindsided by the fraud of this magnitude? To understand this, let's travel back in time to where this all began. Because if you're gonna scam, you better not get caught like Carisha did. So, on August 2020, Karika Wortham started what would pass as a lucrative dream job for many. She was an operations manager at an Amazon warehouse in a small town in Georgia. Starting pay for this job is anywhere from $48,000 up to $161,000 with some seniority. This new position came with some power and influence, such as supervising workers, as well as managing productivity and the daily operations of the facility. From her job description, Karika was supposed to oversee everything from how orders are sorted and packed to their delivery. As such, the buck literally stopped on her table, and she had absolute power over everything in the warehouse. So, any of the freaky things you guys used to order on Amazon? Yeah, she saw that shit. Meanwhile, part of her function as an operation manager involved directly overseeing Amazon's partners, which included either sellers or vendors. You see, Amazon considers its vendors as first-party businesses, and as such, they approve them to go into a partnership where Amazon buys the vendor's product in bulk and pays them to sell the products. While this sounds straightforward in theory, it comes with some of its own risk, such as the product sitting on Amazon's shelves without a buyer. As a result, the vendor ships these products and files invoices for them to get paid when their items are sold. Sounds straightforward, right? Wrong. This is how Amazon got robbed in broad daylight. You see, when you apply to sell on Amazon, you're required to provide your contact information, which is standard procedures. This way, if anything goes wrong with your product, the company can communicate with you. This means that every selling account will definitely be linked to a real person with a social security number. And while this was meant for the smooth running of a warehouse for Wortham, it was also a gold mine to be exploited. So, with the stroke of a pen, she embarked on the infamous journey of creating fake vendors and profiting off of them. At this point, one important thing to note is that with Amazon's notorious centralized operation, I don't understand why they gave one person so much power. But you know what they say, with great power comes great responsibility.
I was going to stick with bitches, but if you want to be a virgin for the rest of your life...
So did she pull off the heist alone? Hell no. She had some people helping her out along the way. Some within the company and others outside the company, all contributing their bits and pieces to the giant fraud that she had going on. For starters, Karika told her subordinates to enter her list of falsified information into Amazon's vendor system. Unknown to them, they were approving fake vendors and setting up the groundwork for what would grow into a $10 million fraud. By approving these fake vendors, it was now a straight path for Karika to accomplish her plan. All she had to do was submit fake invoices and receive payments for them, literally creating money out of thin air. You know, kinda like how the government does it. Some employees file fake documents unknowingly, but Carisha had co-conspirators as well. Amazon's vendor system requires some personal information, one of them being the vendor's social security number. So how did she get these numbers without leaving a trace? That's where these two bozos come in. Demetrius Hines, an employee in Amazon's loss prevention department, and Laquetta Blanchard, a senior human resource assistant. The two people that are supposed to protect your company. Well, Hines and Blanchard were the brains behind getting the social security numbers. Hines and Blanchard furnished Carisha with a steady stream of social security numbers for the fake vendor accounts. But while Blanchard mostly supplied that of her relatives and associates, Hines, the loss prevention guy, turned to the dark web to get his social security numbers. You see, a report shows that Hines employed the service of a rather mysterious figure, Jaquan Frazier, who sold social security numbers. In reality, these numbers were stolen from owners and sold for profits on the black market. But Carisha's co-workers still weren't enough for the magnitude of this scam. So she turned to another accomplice who was closer to home, Brittany Hudson. Brittany was Carisha's partner, who owned a business that had an affiliation with Amazon known as Legend Express. Legend Express also had a contract with Amazon for packing delivery services. So, with the constant supply of fictitious social security numbers accompanied by the list of vendors, Carisha and her team started the business of creating illegal vendors. But to understand the gravity of this fraud, it's important to say that the moment of this heist lasted for only 5 months. And during this period, Carisha and her team submitted fictitious invoices to Amazon to claim money for fraudulent vendors. They sent bills worth $10 million, for which Amazon paid them a mind-blowing amount, some of $9.4 million. With this huge cash out, Carisha and her partner Hudson splurged themselves on as much luxury as they could lay their hands on. First off, they moved into $1 million home in Georgia. Then, they got themselves some really expensive toys. Their garage played host to some high-end luxury cars, such as a 2019 Lamborghini Urus, a 2021 Dodge Durango, a 2022 Tesla Model X, and a Porsche Panamera. They also got themselves a Kawasaki ZX636 motorcycle. Boy, they were ballin', living the big life, and everything was going on well for the power scammers. So, with a big mansion to their name, expensive rides, and enough money to possibly last them for a lifetime, what could possibly go wrong? Well, in March 2022, perhaps thinking she had outgrown her job with Amazon due to her newfound tainted wealth, Carisha decided to part ways with Amazon, which was the dumbest decision ever, because when she resigned from her operator manager position, they had to replace her. But things were smooth at first, and the fake vendors were still sending invoices and getting paid for them 3 months after she left. At this point, they thought they were invincible. However, like every other fraudulent racket, there's always a time limit, because the fraud continued 3 months after she resigned, thanks to an unknown co-conspirator who took over after her. It was this conniving manager that approved these fraudulent invoices till June 2022, and that was when an investigation opened up with the US Secret Service. They blew the lid off this 5-month fraud with Amazon. And as a result, Carisha, her partner, and the unknown co-conspirator were all indicted in September of the same year. Owning up to the crime, Carisha took a plea deal that would see her forfeit her money to the US government. As part of the forfeiture, she agreed to part with $9.4 million and property worth over $2.7 million. This included her $1 million home and her fleet of luxury cars. So all of this was for nothing. And Carisha was released on bail in November 2022 until her sentencing as a result of the plea deal. But this is where the story gets even stupider, because 2 months later in January of 2023, the prosecutors filed to revoke her bail. Turns out Carisha had violated her terms. How did she do that? Well, it's simple. She tried to commit another scam. Her stupidity is shocking at this point. I'm not gonna lie, it's ridiculous. While awaiting sentencing, Carisha and her partners made one last move to close a deal on an opening crew lounge hookah franchise. And when the question of their indictment came up to exonerate themselves, they pinned everything on Hines, who used to work with her in the last fraud that she committed. And to back up this crime, Carisha sent Cruz's team an email casting the whole saga as a massive government conspiracy. So with the falsified account statement and court documents, they proceeded with the deal until the US Secret Service blew their cover. Why they thought they could pull this off while on bail, I don't know. And where did they get the confidence to actually attempt this again? It's just stupid. So Carisha faces a 16-year imprisonment sentence. She's also being indicted for defrauding Crew and forcing the signature of a federal judge. I'm not gonna lie, she has to be the dumbest criminal ever. And for 16 years, I would have kept the money and been up 10 million when I got out. What's the worst that could have happened? They would have gave me another 4 years, which would have equaled up to 20, I guess. What y'all think? Leave it in the comments below. I'm out.